Hello, everyone. It is wonderful to be here today with you. What a year it's been. I so wish we could be together in person for our annual leadership conference. And suddenly, the prospect of gathering as an industry for a live event, unimaginable just a few months ago, doesn't seem so far off. Thanks to the amazing efforts of the scientific community, the world is starting to open up, and across the country, people are reconnecting. Grandparents are flying to see their grandchildren for the first time in a year. Families are heading to Disney, couples are flying overseas or booking cruises, or just driving to the beach. People are gathering with friends and city streets are bustling once again. And for each and every occasion or gathering, we as the out-of-home industry will be there in a way that no other medium can. We may have spent more time than ever this past year streaming, gaming, online shopping, and connecting with one another virtually. But now, people are craving real in-person experiences. President Biden has declared July 4th as the unofficial date when we can finally get somewhat back to normal. We do know, of course, that this is going to be a very different version of normal. Over the past year, we've heard repeatedly how this was the worst pandemic in nearly 100 years. But back in 1918, the Spanish flu outbreak swept the country as soldiers returned from World War I. A wary populace endured quarantines and masks and anxiety, but we pulled through it. And what came next? The Roaring Twenties. People were ready to enjoy life again in a big way and reconnect through real-world in-person experiences. Sound familiar? Many associate the Roaring Twenties with flapper fashion, Wall Street tycoons, and jazz clubs. But it also marked an early golden age of advertising, when messages shifted from being just the delivery of information about products to being the culture-driving storytelling art form we know today. And I think we're about to see a similar golden age as people look to reconnect en masse. And advertisers draw new inspiration. Out of home will be there for every part of it. Think about this. This fall, the NFL is predicting that its stadiums will be full. Imagine the celebratory feel those games will have and the halo effect that brands will gain just for advertising in those stadiums. We all remember those eerie images of an empty Times Square this time last year. Now, amazingly, Broadway is coming back, which will surely breathe new life and exuberance into Midtown Manhattan. And we'll be there, sharing and shaping the experience. This rebirth is happening everywhere, and it's out of home. According to McKinsey, 51% of consumers plan to splurge or treat themselves this year. And 50% of vaccinated consumers say they plan to engage in their usual out-of-home activities. Meanwhile, Forbes reports that a whopping 72% of Americans plan to travel this year. And a recent Harris Poll study found that 82% of Gen Z respondents are longing for outdoor dining, and 78% of millennials are seeking safe outdoor activities. And new Roaring Twenties may indeed be upon us. And hopefully, too, a new golden age of advertising, ushered in by the only medium that can provide the true backdrop for in-person outdoor reconnection. Indeed, our medium has a rare opportunity to not only bring celebrated ad campaigns to consumers, but to be part of the actual celebrations as we look to grab hold of life in ways we haven't been able to do for far too long. Our amazing industry has always been part of the fabric of communities, the heartbeat of the streets. And we know we can actually help make people's lives better in this new outside environment. Of course, before we set out on our epic summer adventures, it's worth a brief look back. When I joined OAAA in 2019, I was closing in on over a decade in digital media. And while I was, and am, very proud of what we accomplished at the IAB, I had also grown a bit frustrated. Frustrated by the digital ad world's growing battles over privacy, and frankly, the fact that the needs of consumers didn't always come first. In February, Harris Poll found that 75% of people are finding that the excessive time on devices is causing them to tune out of digital ads, an increase of 7 points since September. I love the ad business, but I long to do something new that I could be proud of, helping to elevate its powerful role as influencers and culture definers. Of course, I did not know how quickly that role would be challenged. Like every sector, we were hit hard by the sudden shutdown of everyday life last spring, and we had to pause and pivot and regroup. So we got to work. Our clients needed super fast responses, new ways to buy and transact out of home, new solutions, and increased agility. They needed a new nimbleness and assurance that any ad dollar they spent was effective and struck the right tone. And you all rose to the challenge and did some of your very best work. And we at OAAA also found ways to help our partners react to changing conditions and business realities, delivering timely messages, providing marketers with flexibility and creativity that they craved. At that time, many of us stopped commuting, but many, especially essential workers, did not. Our member companies made sure to celebrate and connect with them while also delivering critical public health messages. OAAA members were uniquely positioned to make a real difference, and you rose to the occasion beautifully and brilliantly. Of course, at OAAA, we also had to find ways to help our members, partners, and their businesses endure their own mini crises. When life was on pause, the companies that stood out were not only forward-thinking, but also focused on reconnecting consumers to the outside world. We saw brands like Overall Murals and ArtStart test street murals, and political campaigns experiment with field murals. Suddenly, car wraps were everywhere. As an industry, we have been talking for several years about how out-of-home advertising is rapidly becoming more digital and more data-driven and more programmatic. And as we saw again and again during those early volatile months of the pandemic, the companies that made the biggest investments in those areas were best able to help their clients adjust and thrive. During this unpredictable time, the most disruptive companies and tactics won out. Not only did these disruptors hold on to clients, they also brought new companies and categories to out-of-home. There's a huge lesson here for all of us, and it's why we themed this conference Future Proof. Because we all have to keep pushing. If this past year has taught us anything, it's that the future is never guaranteed. Think back to just a few short years ago. While every medium besides digital was shrinking, out-of-home was growing, projected to be the fastest growing medium, continuing to eclipse print, linear television, and everything else. All of this while demonstrating an enviable set of new digital formats and buying options. And then, out-of-home got hit with a stay-at-home mandate, and everything changed, just like that. The most successful members of our organization are typically the most forward-leaning. They're the ones who know that they have to constantly future-proof their businesses, to up their skill sets and find new ways to draw new talent into this fast-growing industry. But future-proofing isn't just about thinking through the worst-case scenarios. It's also trying to imagine the best new-case scenarios. Can we snap back to where things were pre-pandemic? No, probably not. But I do believe that the out-of-home industry can be bigger and better than it's ever been, but only if we seize this moment in front of us. As I mentioned earlier, consumers have redistributed, rebooted, and rewired. They're living in different places and working and commuting in evolving ways. One thing remains more true than ever. They also love our work. And the work keeps getting better. Harris Poll found that about 1/4 of the general public reported that they've learned of a new business or brand through an out-of-home channel in the past year. This is particularly true in urban centers. According to the same study, 55% of consumers who live in big cities say they are noticing more out-of-home messaging today. And there's also something to be said about our Obie winners, both historically and in this last year. The most sophisticated tech companies in the world, companies like Google, Apple, Reddit, and others, use out-of-home to tell their stories. Meanwhile, many of the most data-driven direct-to-consumer brands are using our medium's modern offerings to drive e-commerce and mobile commerce. Out-of-home gives them a larger-than-life physicality and gravitas they can't get anywhere else. But we can't rest on our laurels, because this moment won't last forever, and there is always more competition for where marketers can put their budgets. So we have to keep disrupting ourselves. We have to keep reconnecting with our customers as they reconnect with theirs. We have to constantly help show marketers the worth of out-of-home, not only about its mass reach, but about its potential for meaningful engagement. We have to supply them with the data they need to make out-of-home a critical part of the media mix. That means pushing for a more reliable and comprehensive measurement that gets us more seats at more tables and a bigger slice of the pie. That means increasing our medium's compatibility and pliability so that ad agencies can buy and optimize out-of-home ads using software and data just like they do for any other digital medium. Brands don't just want to run ads in specific cities or on certain highways. What they want is to reach audiences, to reach people. When it comes to providing ROI and having unlimited optionality, advertisers' expectations went up during the pandemic, and they are not going back down. That means pushing for more creative digital vehicles, as well as embracing technology like QR codes to dial up our interactive capabilities. That means harnessing the potential of 5G and continuing to make daring experimentations in augmented reality. Our medium can really deliver the best of both worlds. Out of home is finally versatile enough to deliver beautiful static images that represent true art, while also optimizing with real-time data. Out of home is the ultimate contextual medium, and it can also be as personal as people want it to be, without any of the baggage like third-party cookies or invasive identifiers. Still, above all else, and as you all know, this medium can make you feel. It has an emotional impact. It inspires and informs every day. When other forms of advertising are being actively avoided, we are connecting more than ever. And that's what these next 2 days are all about. You'll hear from brilliant CMOs like Citi's Carla Hassan and Morgan Flatley from McDonald's. You'll be inspired by the excellent work being showcased by brands like Reddit, Budweiser, and Dole Sunshine Group. And you'll learn about how new categories like cannabis are breathing new life into out of home. Our most diverse speaker lineup in history is packed with people who are here to share challenging, thought-provoking, business-improving ideas. Along with a healthy mix of big picture and practical, visionary dreams and day-to-day best practices we think you'll never forget. Because right now, as the world reconnects, out of home will be there, part of every newly treasured experience. OAAA will be there for our members in whole new essential ways. And as the new Roaring 20s commence, our industry will be there leading the next golden age of advertising. Thank you.